After The Hunger Games, many readers do not actually want another copy of the same story. They want the same forward pull, the same feeling that every chapter matters, and the same sense that a book understands how to keep pressure high without becoming confusing. That is why the smartest next step is not asking for one perfect replacement. It is asking which part of the experience you most want to keep. The books in this guide cover 3 exit lanes. Some keep the YA speed and clean readability. Some move into slightly older territory while keeping momentum high. Some go fully adult and ask for a calmer, heavier kind of attention. Red Rising by Pierce Brown offers fierce momentum and a broader scale. The Maze Runner by James Dashner keeps the simple, urgent page-turning feel. Divergent by Veronica Roth stays readable and identity-driven. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood moves into sharper adult social pressure. Battle Royale by Kushin Takami feels harsher and more extreme. The Road by Cormac McCarthy is the quietest book here, but also the bleakest. The goal is not to rank them by quality. The goal is to help you choose the right next emotional step, so your reading momentum continues instead of disappearing the moment a beloved series ends. The easiest way to use this guide is to sort your mood before you sort by reputation. If what you loved most in The Hunger Games was pure momentum, short chapters, and the feeling that the book always knows where it is going, start in the YA lane. That lane is built around The Maze Runner and Divergent. Both are clean, immediate, and easy to move through after a reading slump. If what you loved was escalation, strategy, tension, and a world that feels larger with every step, the bridge lane is stronger. That is where Red Rising fits. It keeps the drive that makes dystopian fiction addictive, but it pushes the scale upward and asks for a little more patience in exchange. If what stayed with you was the social pressure, the discomfort, and the way a story can say something serious without feeling academic, the adult lane matters more. The Handmaid's Tale, Battle Royale, and The Road all belong there, but they do different jobs. One is controlled and political. One is brutally intense. One is stripped down and haunting. Choosing by lane removes pressure. You do not need the most famous next book. You need the next book that matches your current reading energy. The Maze Runner, James Dashner. This is the safest recommendation if you want to keep moving fast. The prose is direct. The chapters push you forward. The book creates immediate uncertainty without demanding much setup from the reader. That makes it especially strong for anyone who finished The Hunger Games and does not want a slower, more reflective transition yet. What this book preserves is urgency. It gives you that familiar feeling that the story starts in motion and expects you to catch up quickly. It also works well if you like discovering rules as you go, instead of receiving long explanations up front. That is a major reason it remains one of the easiest post-Hunger Games picks for younger readers and returning readers. It is also useful because it keeps the commitment manageable. Even if you are unsure whether you want another series right now, this start feels low pressure. Read the first book and decide after that. You do not need a long-term contract on day one. In reader experience terms, The Maze Runner is not the deepest book on this list. It is the smoothest handoff. When people say they want something just as addictive, this is usually what they mean. They want speed, tension, clarity, and enough mystery to keep turning pages without a heavy adjustment period. Divergent, Veronica Roth. This is the better pick if what you loved in The Hunger Games was the identity pressure rather than only the pacing. It is still approachable and highly readable, but the reading experience leans a little more into belonging, choice, and the social structure around the main conflict. That makes it feel familiar to Hunger Games readers without feeling like the exact same rhythm. Divergent works well for readers who like clean world rules and clear emotional framing. It does not ask you to admire complexity first. It asks you to decide whether the central setup clicks for you. That is a useful quality when you are trying to keep a reading habit alive. You are never forced to work too hard before the book starts paying you back with forward movement. It is also a smart option for viewers who want another recognizable dystopian gateway before moving into heavier adult books. In other words, it can function as a stepping stone. Read something like this now, then move later into Red Rising or The Handmaid's Tale when you want more intensity or more adult framing. For many readers, Divergent is not the most ambitious recommendation after The Hunger Games. It is the most confidence-building one. It tells you that you can stay in familiar territory for one more stop, enjoy yourself, and then choose whether you want to go broader, darker, or more literary next. Red Rising, Pierce Brown. This is the strongest bridge recommendation if you want something that still feels propulsive, but clearly moves toward an older audience. The opening energy is sharp, the stakes feel high early, and the book understands how to keep tension alive. At the same time, it asks for a little more trust than the YA lane. That is why it works best as a bridge, not as a universal first pick for everyone. What makes Red Rising useful after The Hunger Games is not just that both are intense, it is that both understand controlled escalation. You begin with a strong hook, but the experience widens as you go. For readers who finished The Hunger Games and immediately thought, "I want something bigger now," this is often the right answer. It also helps that the series opens with a clear emotional engine. You do not need to memorize a huge fantasy map or learn a complicated magic system. The reading experience is still centered on momentum, ambition, status pressure, and constant decision-making. That familiarity reduces friction even as the tone grows more forceful. The main caution is simple. If you currently want comfort, this may be too aggressive as your very next read. But if you want to step up in intensity and scale without losing readability, Red Rising is the cleanest transition on the list. It is often the book that turns former YA dystopia readers into broader adult genre readers. The Handmaid's Tale. Margaret Atwood. This is the recommendation for readers who finished The Hunger Games and realized the political pressure mattered more to them than the action mechanics. It is not built for the same kind of speed. Instead, it offers a tighter, more controlled reading experience that stays with you because of atmosphere, social tension, and the feeling that power shapes everyday life. That difference matters. If you start this expecting another sprint, you may think it is the wrong pick. It is not the wrong pick. It is simply serving a different part of the dystopian appetite. It is for readers who want the adult lane and are ready for a book that creates pressure through restriction. This also makes it one of the best post-Hunger Games books for viewers who are trying to expand their reading taste without jumping into something inaccessible. The prose is readable, the concept is clear. The main adjustment is pace, not difficulty. So when should you choose it? Choose it when you want a book that feels serious without feeling dry. Choose it when you want to stay inside dystopian territory, but test a more literary mode. And choose it when you want your next read to widen your sense of what the genre can do, instead of simply repeating the same engine with new packaging. Battle Royale Kushin Takami. This is the most intense recommendation in the group, and it only works as the right next read for a specific kind of viewer. If what you want is maximum pressure, a relentless scenario, and a book that pushes the survival premise much harder, this is the lane. It is direct, severe, and not especially interested in reassuring the reader. That is exactly why it should not be the automatic follow-up for everyone who liked The Hunger Games. Sometimes people hear about the basic setup connection and assume this must be the next step. Usually that is too blunt. The better question is whether you want more emotional sharpness and a harsher atmosphere right now. If yes, Battle Royale can be a strong fit. If not, it can easily feel like the wrong turn. In practical terms, this is the recommendation for experienced thriller readers, horror-adjacent readers, or anyone who wants a more extreme version of social pressure and competition. It is not the smoothest handoff. It is the sharpest one. That is why it belongs in the adult lane, rather than the main beginner lane. It absolutely has a place in a post-Hunger Games roadmap, but only when intensity is the goal. Think of it as the book you choose when you want to push the concept harder, not when you want to preserve comfort or rebuild reading consistency. The Road. Cormac McCarthy. This is the quietest book in the guide, and that can make it easy to misplace. People sometimes assume that a quieter book will feel easier after a fast series. In reality, The Road is easier in structure and harder in mood. Its prose is stripped down. The pages move quickly, but the experience is heavy, sparse, and emotionally demanding in a very different way from the other recommendations here. It belongs after The Hunger Games, for readers who discovered that what they really want next is not competition, but aftermath, not spectacle, but atmosphere, not a crowded system but a focused emotional corridor. That is a narrower craving, yet it is a real one. The major advantage is clarity. The book does not bury you in explanation. It trusts the mood, the landscape, and the emotional pressure to do the work. For some readers, that makes it one of the most memorable adult transitions on this list. For others, it will be too bleak to use as a bridge. So the decision rule is simple. Do not choose The Road because it is famous. Choose it because you want something stripped back, haunting, and serious. If you want that mood, it can be the perfect next read. If you want momentum with more release, Red Rising or The Maze Runner will keep your reading energy alive more easily. A smart post-Hunger Games order is usually not one fixed list. It is a ladder. Start with the least friction that still feels exciting. For many readers, that means The Maze Runner first. After that, move either to Divergent if you want to stay in readable YA territory, or to Red Rising if you want the same kind of pull with more scale and force. Once that bridge works, the adult lane opens more naturally. The Handmaid's Tale makes sense when you want stronger political weight. Battle Royale makes sense when you want the hardest pressure. The Road makes sense when you want the quietest and bleakest version of dystopian aftermath. This matters because sequencing changes the experience. If you jump straight from The Hunger Games into the heaviest adult option, you may misread the book because you are carrying the wrong expectation. The best next book is not always the best book overall. It is the one that protects momentum while nudging your taste forward. So here is the practical ladder. Easy continuation. The Maze Runner. Familiar but slightly more inward. Divergent. Strongest bridge upward. Red Rising. Political adult lane. The Handmaid's Tale. Extreme pressure lane. Battle Royale. Bleak aftermath lane. The Road. That order is not about prestige. It is about reducing friction and helping you keep reading instead of stalling out after finishing a series you loved. The most common mistake after finishing a beloved series is choosing based on reputation instead of transition fit. People often assume the most respected adult dystopian novel should come next. Sometimes that works. Often it kills momentum. A better rule is to ask which of these books you are most ready for right now. Avoid starting with The Handmaid's Tale if your priority is speed. Avoid starting with Battle Royale if you are already emotionally tired. Avoid starting with The Road if you want comfort or a broadcast. Avoid starting with Red Rising if you want the gentlest handoff. Avoid starting with Divergent or The Maze Runner only if you are specifically trying to move out of YA immediately. This is not about quality, it is about fit. A mismatched follow-up can make you think you are done with reading when really you just picked the wrong next lane. That is why beginner-friendly curation matters so much on a channel like this. For the least friction, choose The Maze Runner. For a familiar YA structure with more identity emphasis, choose Divergent. For the best upgrade path, choose Red Rising. For serious adult dystopia, choose The Handmaid's Tale. For maximum intensity, choose Battle Royale. For stripped-down bleakness, choose The Road. Once you frame the decision this way, the pressure drops. You are no longer hunting for the objective best answer. You are choosing the right next answer for your current reading appetite. If you want the safest single answer, start with Red Rising when you are ready for a bigger and more adult-feeling jump. Start with The Maze Runner when you want the easiest continuation of page-turning energy. Start with The Handmaid's Tale only when you are ready for slower, sharper adult pressure. Those 3 recommendations cover most viewers who finish The Hunger Games and do not know where to go next. The wider lesson is simple. You do not need to replace The Hunger Games. You need to continue the part of the reading experience that mattered most to you. That may be speed, that may be tension, that may be politics, that may be atmosphere. Once you identify that, the next book becomes much easier to choose. So the final roadmap is clear. For speed, choose The Maze Runner. For familiar YA structure, choose Divergent. For the strongest bridge upward, choose Red Rising. For adult political pressure, choose The Handmaid's Tale. For harsh intensity, choose Battle Royale. For bleak literary aftermath, choose The Road. Keep the decision small. Pick one lane, read one book, then decide again. That is the easiest way to keep momentum after a finished series. And if you want the full beginner-friendly path on one screen, the long guide on this topic gives you the cleanest order without making the choice feel bigger than it needs to be.